10 almost right villains in World of Warcraft. I've talked about this before. Many people that we have killed in this game, you look back and you're like, wait a minute, should we have killed them? Well, a lot of the things they said have come true. There's the, you know, the typical, hey, Garrosh did nothing wrong comments and stuff like that. Even the jailer is starting to look like maybe he was right about a few things. Let's check this video out from Nixium. 10 villains in the World of Warcraft who were kind of right. Let's see what's going on here.
These are 10 villains from World of Warcraft who kinda were almost right. I think that a villain who is just evil, yeah, they're kind of boring. And so it's much more interesting when a bad guy, you know, he's got layers to his perspective. Why is he doing what he is doing? And in some ways, he becomes very relatable. From the depths of the dead mines to the far-off world of Outland, I think I have collected a pretty decent list of villains that maybe, just maybe, given the chance, could have convinced you to join their side.
Interesting.
Let's start with number 1, Edwin VanCleef.
Poor Edwin VanCleef.
This was one of the first.
He is a man of the people. Just an FYI, Edwin VanCleef was a man of the people. I think I just called him VanQueef. That's a new way to say his name. Anyways, Stormwind completely screwed over his people. The Mason workers that rebuilt Stormwind didn't get paid. And this man rebelled, and he got killed for it. So, you know, when you look at him and you're looting his corpse for the 3rd cruel barb that you're looking for in a row, don't forget, this man was a man of the people and didn't deserve... By the way, we're so violent. We cut his fucking head off and brought it back to Stormwind to show the people what happens when you fuck around with the government. That's fucked up. Really, looking back on that quest line, that was messed up.
Villains in World of Warcraft who really made you stop for a moment and think, you know, this guy kind of has a good reason to be so angry. After the Second War, Stormwind was completely destroyed and was in desperate need of somebody to rebuild the city. So they turned to Edwin VanCleef and his men, a group of stonemasons, who got to work immediately on this monumentally huge project. But the thing is, though, upon finishing the job, the Stormwind nobles, the ones who commissioned the work to be done in the first place, they refused to pay the stonemasons, saying that their money was needed elsewhere. Apparently, even in a fantasy kingdom full of mages and dragons and whatever, the scariest monster, ladies and gentlemen, is still upper management. Anyway, as you can imagine, Edwin
Tiffin was collateral damage. She wanted to pay the Masons, and she was murdered. Well, I mean, she wasn't... They didn't mean to kill her. Somebody threw a rock. If you guys don't know who he's talking about Varian Wryn's wife. That's how she died. Anduin's mom. She died during a riot from the stonemasons. Somebody threw a rock, it hits her in the head, and she dies. I don't think, you know, I mean, I don't know what that stonemason was thinking in terms of lore and everything else. But that was just an angry throw. I highly doubt he was aiming to kill the queen. But it is what it is.
VanCleef was rightfully kind of furious. Stormwind and its nobility had wronged him. It had wronged his men. And so he set off on a mission of revenge. And you know what? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you probably kind of do the same thing, or at least want to? The only issue is that VanCleef took his idea of revenge way too far.
Yeah,
so far, in fact, that he felt that rather than taking out his anger on the Stormwind nobles that wronged him, he was going to unleash his stonemason's wrath on the entire city. And how was he going to do that? A weapon of mass destruction that he began to construct in the dead mines. That giant warship at the end of the dungeon? Yeah, that thing. If VanCleef had finished and unleashed that ship,
he would have showed up in the shores.
Thousands of innocents would have died. Homes would have burned. Refuge.
Well, he just wanted to destroy the city that his boys rebuilt and never got paid for. You know, kind of fucked up, yeah, but the man was wronged.
G's would have had to flee to Ironforge or other far-off lands. VanCleef, yeah, he would have gotten his revenge, but he would have been seen as a monster, despite whatever excuse he might have had. But I think that's just what makes him so damn interesting. And hey, we're only just getting started with this list, because there is plenty more bad guys to go through.
Yeah, right, Cody's here.
Zul'jin.
Zul'jin.
Zul'jin, he's complicated as a character because honestly, the only reason why he's evil is because he's not part of our tribe, so to speak. What do I mean by that? Well, Zul'jin, he's a part of the Amani Trolls, the same Amani Trolls from the Midnight expansion.
I will say the High Elves are fucked up. They are fucked up. Especially back then, they were a very pompous, arrogant race, encroaching on the natives' lands of these Amani trolls. Look at Zul'jin. His freaking arms cut off, his eye is poked. These like torturous methods, disgusting stuff that they did to these trolls. So yeah, he kind of had a right to be mad.
And he has personally witnessed how terribly the High Elves, now the Blood Elves, how terribly they have treated his people over the years. He has seen his people's land stolen, innocents driven off into the deeper forests to hide. He has witnessed the elves celebrating over the dead bodies of his kin, and rightfully, he was kind of angry. But what made Zul'jin and the Amani our enemies during the events of the Burning Crusade was that the Blood Elves, their kingdom having been, destroyed by the Scourge in Warcraft 3, they joined forces with the Horde. Now, Zul'jin and the Amani, they likely thought that the Scourge was going to be a nail in the Elven expansion coffin. Their kingdom, it was destroyed. They were no longer going to be a threat to the Amani. There would be peace, but that was not going to be the case. The Sindarai, they joined the Horde. Their kingdom was now going to be rebuilt. These new allies, Orcs and Tauren and Forsaken and stuff, they would soon arrive on the shores of Kael'thas, and Zul'jin, he couldn't tolerate that.
Yeah.
He foresaw...
you can see how it pissed him off, right? These elves that showed up millennia ago started taking over his people's land slowly but surely, and he saw this force that maybe he thought was a natural force or kind of revenge of nature or something. But this necrotic force show up and completely destroy the city, and he thought, oh man, finally, this elf problem's gone. Now we can take our land back. And then the fucking Horde shows up and refortifies everything for them. Yeah, that's why he hated the Horde.
Final destruction of his own people at the hands of the elves and the orcs and the Tauren, the Forsaken, and so he acted. Turning to what power he could find, Zul'jin, he rebuilt his army of Amani trolls, and he prepared to unleash them on the slowly expanding elves of Kael'thas. And in doing so, he brought the full wrath of the Horde upon him and his people. Within the city of Zul'aman, Zul'jin, he made his stand against the adventurers who had come to subjugate and strike down his people, and there he died. Now, Zul'jin did turn to dark powers in the end to try to bring about his goal of defending his people, but really, can you blame him? He was kind of on the ropes, on his back foot. In his eyes...
It kind of seems like a common theme for these first two people already, that, when your back's against the wall and you have nothing left to turn to, you turn to desperate methods, which usually are not seen as very good, almost evil.
He saw the Sindarai about to finish what they had been trying to do for years, wipe out the Amani entirely. And with the Horde now at the Blood Elves' call, Zul'jin, he was terrified. Like I said though, ultimately this guy was evil simply because he wasn't us or on our team. And I think that's why his story, his very tribalistic story, is so tragic and relatable for some players. And it's probably why Zul'jan's story is so relatable for many people in Midnight.
Yeah, Zul'jin looks at him back at him and says, well, you know what? He wasn't wrong. He was just trying to save our people, and he got killed for it.
Number 3. Kael'thas Sunstrider.
Salama Ashalanore.
So now I want to turn my attention from Zul'aman and go check out the Blood Elves, the other side of the coin. So like I just said, Kael'thas, it had been decimated by the Scourge. The Sunwell, it was tainted by the resurrection of the necromancer Kel'Thuzad. The Blood Elves, they were starved of magic. They were entirely addicted to it. And with no home, no true source of arcane magic, politically isolated after the events of Warcraft 3, keep in mind this is before they joined the Horde, Kael'thas, the prince of Silvermoon City, he needed some sort of solution to his people's plight. So he turned to the demon Illidan.
He tried, man. Kael'thas tried to fix things. He did. He didn't just, sit there in his tower and smoke the only magic that was left in the city. No, he did try to go search out for his people. It's kind of sad that they took down his statue, still thrown away in the ocean. The big statue in Silvermoon that he had, it's gone. It's just got tossed away. It's garbage. And it's because the people look back at him as a villain. But in reality, he became a villain trying to save his people. It's kind of a common theme with these guys.
He turned his people towards fell magic and drawing arcane power from Illidan's Shrine of Lost Souls, and each step that he took might have felt necessary at the time. I mean, what would you do if the people that depend on you were so desperate for magic or something that they were visibly shaking and turning into withered
They're all going through
monsters
withdrawals.
because of it? Kael'thas might have felt that in some manner, he didn't really have a choice but to take the path that he did. But the Prince of Silvermoon, he became impatient with Illidan. His own arrogance and pride became his undoing, for although Illidan, he did intend to help the Blood Elves find a permanent solution to their issue, for the Prince of Silvermoon, Illidan's solution was not coming fast enough.
That arrogance and pride, it's a common, issue with the Blood Elves. It's their usual mistake.
That and the fact that now Kael'thas himself was using fel magic probably way too much to sate his own addiction, something that made him paranoid, terrified of failing his people, and it filled him with shame.
Well, to be fair to Kael'thas, fel magic was very new at this point in the world. Like, not everybody knew about it. Medivh kind of knew about the fel. He had been hearing the whispers and he was interacting with it. But Kael'thas, he just saw it as another source of magic. He didn't really know its corrupting effects and everything else. So he didn't mean to fall the way he did. He just, it was a new source of magic and he just dabbled in it a bit too much.
Failing his people, and it filled him with shame. And in that state of weakness, he was contacted by the demon lord Kil'jaeden, who promised him a means to attain even greater degrees of fel magic, techniques that Illidan had kept hidden from the Blood Elves. All the great lord of the Burning Legion asked in return was for Kael'thas to leave Illidan's side as a follower, and that the Prince of Silvermoon happily did. So the tragic thing about Kael'thas is that his story is one of desperation, survival, addiction, and how evil comes to tempt us at our lowest and weakest moments in our lives. For Kael'thas, what began as something noble, doing what he could to help his people, it ended up with him making an enemy of his own kin, attacking Silvermoon, stealing his way to the remnants of the Sunwell, and attempting to use its magic to bring Kil'jaeden into our world.
And this is why his statue was torn down. I mean, I guess deserved in the end. It's just sad that it came to that.
Like a pawn, he was used by the Burning Legion, but Kael'thas, he never saw it that way. All he saw was his people's need to feed, as well as his own, and he was willing to sacrifice anything, even Azeroth, for that. Number 4, Fandral Staghelm.
I have vision that she lacks.
This is a character that's animated by grief when we first encounter him in Classic WoW.
I actually don't know
He
who this
sits
is.
atop the druid area of Darnassus. He's brooding on old wars, and he's lecturing us on how Tyrande and Malfurion have failed their people. He's angry.
Well,
he's constantly frustrated. And he's even revealed to be the one who's been keeping Malfurion asleep for all of these years, keeping him separated from Tyrande and leading the Night Elves in the waking world. And why is he doing this? Like, why all the bitterness? Why all the hate that ultimately led this guy to joining Ragnaros during the events of World of Warcraft Cataclysm? Well, the answer to that
he's
requires
the druid.
us to go back many
He's
years.
the druid in the raid. Okay, I see now. I was wondering, I'm like, where did we fight this guy? Okay.
To the War of the Shifting Sands, when Fandral watched his only son die. After that happened, grief, it tore
I've never read his
his
name.
heart. And some years later, during the events of Warcraft 3, he watched as Malfurion, his Shondo, sacrificed the precious immortality of the Kaldorei to defeat the Burning Legion and Archimonde atop Mount Hyjal. His son was dead, and now the reality of his own inevitable decay was in his mind. And Fandral, he grew restless, and he became bitter towards Tyrande and her lover. He saw this world as just broken, in need of cleansing, and this is why when he was brought before the Fire Lord
Cleansed by
Ragnaros,
fire.
when he was offered tremendous power to help reshape this world to his own vision,
Got it.
Fandral, he agreed. Grief became despair in this man. pride and immortality, it turned into desperation, and anger became madness. Fandral, he became blinded by his own rage, his self-hatred for having failed.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same, Arcanimus. This guy's less so sympathetic than the other. I can empathize with him less. I mean, he lost his son, which is a traumatic event. It's very sad. But it seems like it just turned him dark, and he already had it in him, and it just kind of let it out.
Son, and for not, having secured the blessings of the dragon aspects when he planted the new world tree of Teldrassil in an attempt to regain the immortality of the Night Elves. And with nowhere to go, he turned to literal fire itself to cleanse away the broken world that he saw before him. And honestly, if many of us were offered the power to strike back at those who wronged us, abandoned us in our hour of greatest need, wouldn't you also be tempted by the proposal to enact your will on those individuals? Fandral, like many people on this list, he's a man who began with great virtue, but he fell into temptation due to unfortunate events. But we are only just getting started, because the villains that I'm going to talk about going forward are even more complex.
Ooh.
Number 5, Lei Shen.
Lei Shen.
The Thunder King was...
Canonically and lore-wise, by the way, Lei Shen goes down as one of the strongest villains we ever fought. He was epic.
Can always use another death.
Rahuto, thank you for the Prime, man. 2 months. Thank you so much. Love that fight. Yeah, this was an epic fight. He was extremely powerful, and he had his reasons for his problem. Let's see what Nixium says. But stronger than Arthas. Look, I don't know how I'd power rank him against Arthas, but he's definitely up there. He's definitely up there. And you look at all the lore and everything else and where he got his powers from and everything, he is up there in terms of how dangerous he was, his ability to destroy the entire world, and how we did almost lose to him.
Almost right, because he understood a harsh truth about
He had
Azeroth.
Titanic buffs,
the world
basically.
is dangerous, it's divided, and it's often ruled by whoever possesses the strength to simply impose their order. When he discovered that the Titan Keeper Rauden had surrendered to despair, Lei Shen, he concluded that the gods and their servants were unworthy of ruling. So he's
another death.
DK, thank you for the Prime, man. Thank you so much, guys, for all the subs today. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you.
Seized Rauden's power, and he decided that someone with greater will had to take control. So from Lei Shen's perspective, his conquests, they were not pointless cruelty. He believed that what he was doing was unifying a chaotic world,
right,
forcing weaker peoples to serve a greater purpose and building an empire strong enough to survive any threat. He valued discipline, ambition, and
was
action
a man's man,
rather than passively trusting absent gods. His diagnosis, was partially correct.
By the way, my logo is literally Lei Shen with the Lich King, like fused. If you ever look at my logo, you're like, what inspired this? That's what it is. To me, it's like the 2 strongest villains fused together, the Samiccus logo. There you go.
But his solution was monstrous in the long run. Lei Shen, he believed that strength gave him the right to enslave and conquer and sacrifice anybody beneath him. He created order, oh yes he did, but it was an order that was built on fear and suffering, with every life valued only by how useful it was to the Thunder King and his throne. And this is why we had to stop him. Lei Shen, he might have been right that Azeroth needed strength and unity, but his return would have meant replacing freedom with permanent tyranny. He saw the weakness of the world clearly. He simply became something worse than the chaos he wanted to defeat. And now, we are halfway through the video, everybody, so just wanted to...
I feel like Algalon the Observer was strong. I mean, Algalon had a powerful weapon, but I don't know if that strength was coming from him. He just had a button he could press that could re-originate the entire planet.
Take a quick moment to thank you all for making it this far.
Strong.
And if you're enjoying it, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Anyway, let's continue with a fan favorite character, number 6,
Garrosh. All right.
Hellscream.
I am your death.
He's the one bad guy from Warcraft's history that everybody will shout did nothing wrong.
Did nothing wrong, yeah. Classic.
At least in my opinion, I think he's Blizzard's best written character since World of Warcraft's release back in 2004. But let me give you an overview.
Look, Garrosh, the one reason why a lot of people empathize with Garrosh is because he was kind of badly written. Like, in the beginning, Garrosh was written as a very empathetic character, and even when he took over the Horde, he had moments where he killed a general for killing women and children. Like, he was very much an honorable orc who believed, yes, that the Horde needed to be strengthened and fortified. By the way, he was just trying to gather more resources for the Horde. He believed that they needed more to be able to survive. And he was doing it in an honorable way. And then it seems like his writing and his character got passed off to somebody else who took him in a completely different direction. And then he became like this fucking crazed warmonger who didn't care about who they killed or who they stepped on. It didn't matter. Burn a world tree for whatever, whatever you got to do. He didn't burn the world tree. But you get what I'm saying? Like, he just didn't give a fuck anymore. He nuked a whole city. Yes, that was his big thing, right? Goodbye, Theramore. Giant arcane bomb. That's it. They're gone. Which was very, like, character opposite of originally the way we saw Garrosh. And I think that's just bad writing. Like, there was no real reason for him to go down that path. He just suddenly became more evil, and it was because of a decision Blizzard made. And yes, I agree. Thrall did fuck up, letting him... Thrall left him. He was still young. Didn't know how to rule. He didn't do a good job passing the torch at all. And he left him with a lot of stress. The reason why Thrall left was because he was overstressed, and he fucking left it to a young-ass orc that was still trying to figure out how to deal with shit himself. Yeah, not the best pass-off. Definitely some blame goes on Thrall.
Garrosh as a lonely orc in Nagrand, haunted by the legacy of failure that his...
And by the way, Garrosh wanted to stay in Nagrand when we found him there. He felt like he was dishonored. His father had brought dishonor, and he just wanted to stay there. It was Thrall who convinced him to come back. So, yeah, again, another Thrall. Like, you took this guy in as, like, basically an orphan, and then you fucking abandoned him.
Father apparently handed down to him. Garrosh Hellscream, he had been the first to drink the blood of Meneroth, damning the orcs to service to the Burning Legion, and for this reason, Garrosh was looked down upon and mocked by his peers for being his son. But then, Thrall comes during the events of the Burning Crusade, and he tells the young orc of all the great things that his father had done, and how despite any of his failures, Grom was the one who ultimately freed the orcs from their blood curse. And in doing this, Thrall gave to the young man something he had always lacked.
Right.
Hope and pride.
That pulled it away in the end.
He then returned to Durotar with Thrall, and he saw how terribly the orcs were living. Thrall, he said this was penance for the many sins, but Garrosh looked at this and disagreed. In Northrend, the young orc was chosen to be one of the Horde's generals, and he won great honor for himself on the battlefield, even becoming the war chief when Thrall decided to step down in Cataclysm. But upon rising to the throne, due to the young man's hot-headedness towards those he felt were mistreating the Horde, aka the Alliance, the other Horde faction leaders began to treat him very poorly. Zul'jin insulted him publicly on the regular.
Right.
Karen Bloodhoof challenged Garrosh to a fight to the death over a crime that
They were disrespecting his ass all the time. This is true.
Garrosh didn't even commit. Sylvanas treated him like an idiot, the Blood Elves treated him like a fool, and Thrall just abandoned the young man to figure all this out on his own. In time, Garrosh, he just turned all his attention towards doing what he thought was best. He was going to better the Horde to the best of his ability by conquering land, defeating enemy armies,
gathering
and not
resources,
allowing the Alliance any further footholds across the world. But as the other races of the Horde continued to look down on him, despite his achievements, ultimately Garrosh, he became unconcerned with the affairs of Tauren and Trolls and Forsaken and Blood Elves and Goblins and whatever. He only cared about the orcs and the restoration.
This was his major flaw. I think that this was like his biggest problem, was just his complete lack of regard for the other races. Like, if he cared as much for the Tauren and the Trolls and everything and making them better and gathering resources for them and feeding them and making them better over, he might have had a better, time ruling. But he was very, racist. He very much just cared about the orcs. He thought they were the true Horde. They were the superior race compared to all the others. And they were the only ones whose plight he needed to worry about. Everybody else can go fuck themselves. That's basically the way Garrosh kind of led.
of their former glory. So in the
Nazi
end,
orc supremacy,
seeking power
basically.
to bring about a glorious future for his own people, Garrosh, he turned to darker old god type magic, which corrupted him and demanded of the whole world.
At this point, yeah, he started to become corrupted, right? He had all that shit going on. He's eating fucking old god organs, and the Shaws were messing with him, and he had a bunch of shit going on in his head at this point. So yeah, at this point, he basically was really evil.
That he needed to be stopped. What preceded was the Horde that opposed Garrosh, as well as the Alliance. They marched on Orgrimmar, they threw down its walls, they captured the War Chief. But Garrosh escaped. He went back in time to Old Draenor, where he could finally be a part of the Horde he always dreamed of, and there, having followed him into the past, we encountered Garrosh once again and killed him this time. There is so much to say about this character, and this brief summary does not do him justice, but Garrosh, you know, he truly did care about the Horde, his last words in Shadowlands even being for the Horde.
Yes.
Yet nobody truly ever gave him a chance. Thrall abandoned him. He had no real experience. He was animated by tales of old war glory of his people, and
there's some like similarities to Anakin a little bit, in that he was like an orphan boy, and then he comes of age, and you know, somebody brings him back to the city, and he treats him, he's like a father figure to him, and then he kind of abandons him, and the council that he trusts kind of disrespects him the entire time, and it just leads to anger, it leads to isolation, it leads to bad decisions. You know, there's a Star Wars arc a bit to him.
Was there to check him. He's a tragic character because some people consider him the last true war chief of the Horde, and there's plenty of Garrosh loyalists even to this day playing World of Warcraft, maybe even in the comment section of this very video. If you're one of those people, you can let us know down below in the comment section. Number 7. Sylvanas Windrunner.
Oh god.
Time for games.
Sylvanas recognized that the forces governing life and death were not as just or natural as everybody believed.
Sylvanas is not a bad guy. I mean, she's done bad things, but she's not a bad guy, I would say. I don't think she was ever supposed to be a bad guy. Again, some character being passed off to different writers, some bad decisions were made, but oh yeah, mommy. But overall, I don't think she's really bad.
After Arthas murdered her and transformed her into a banshee,
the Night Elves might disagree, though.
And stripped away her freedom, Sylvanas came to see that existence itself was kind of a prison. Mortals were suffering, they would die, they would then be judged by these cosmic powers that they had never even chosen or understood. From Sylvanas' perspective, this cycle was fundamentally unfair. She believed that no god, arbiter, or eternal order should decide the fate of a person's soul. So when the jailer, when he promised to tear down this whole system and create a reality in which everybody would finally be free, she saw him as a means of breaking the chains that had controlled her entire existence.
Right.
So her anger was understandable, and some of her criticisms were correct. The Shadowlands, they were deeply flawed, especially the expansion as a whole. But anyway, powerful beings, they were treating mortal souls like resources. The system of death had already been manipulated and broken. But
this must have happened sometime after Icecrown. It did. The lore of Sylvanas eventually going to the Shadowlands and realizing what happens after death did canonically happen right after the events of Icecrown. After we kill Arthas, she believes her journey is over, her story is done, and she actually throws herself off the top of Icecrown, being impaled by the giant spikes at the bottom. She dies, and then in death, she realizes, like, oh, this whole death mechanism's all fucked up. She basically went to the Shadowlands before any of us ever did. The Valkyr bring her back to life, and then she makes it her life's mission to kind of break this system of death that seems like something's wrong with it. Turns out she was right. We're realizing now that the Titans have basically taken over the Shadowlands and turned it into a system that it was never meant to be. But yes, that is exactly how she realized that the Shadowlands was fucked up. Major lore point. Yeah, it is. It's a major lore point.
Sylvanas, she became the very thing
she's the OG
she
Marwalker,
claimed
yes.
to be against. In pursuit of freedom, she denied freedom to countless others. She started
that's the moment
wars,
she met the jailer.
She burned Teldrassil, condemned innocent souls to the maw, and treated entire populations as sacrifices for her supposed greater purpose. She believed that the ends justified the means, even when those means involved mass murder and domination. And that is why we had to put an end to her nonsense. Sylvanas, she was right that the world is governed by unjust powers sometimes, but her solution was to destroy everything and just trust another tyrant to rebuild it. She understood what it meant to have her choices taken away, and then she proceeded to take those same choices away from millions of others. Number 8.
Yeah, her burning the tree was kind of a mistake. Yeah, that was kind of a mistake.
Illidan Stormrage.
You are not prepared.
He wasn't even a bad guy. We killed him, and he wasn't even a bad guy.
Can always use
Z4 Dave. Thank you for the prime, man. Thank you for all the primes today. I appreciate it. Z4. Death Knight Ever Scourge. Look, now that we see when you make a demon hunter, you see the other side of the story where we're approaching and everything. Illidan was technically a bad guy in the Outland story. He was in the Outlands, but that's because we didn't have the full story. We didn't realize that he was trying to defeat the Burning Legion as well. He was just doing it in a less conformist kind of way. He was just willing to take on power and do things he needed to do to kill them. We weren't prepared, exactly. We weren't prepared for the full story.
Illidan was a character that understood that the Burning Legion could not be defeated through
he knew more than
caution or tradition or moral purity alone. The Legion is an endless army that had destroyed countless worlds, and Illidan believed that Azeroth could survive only by turning the demon's own power against them. From his point of view, every sacrifice was justified if it helped prevent the destruction of the world. He consumed demonic power, he created the demon hunters, he conquered Outland, he built an army capable of striking directly at the Legion.
He was
While
badass.
Others saw corruption, Illidan, he just saw weapons. While others defended Azeroth, he wanted to take the war to the enemy. So his central argument, to be fair, was largely correct. The Legion was never going to stop coming. Conventional armies were never going to be enough. And Azeroth eventually did need warriors willing to use dangerous powers and invade the Legion's territory. In many ways, the final...
He basically didn't want to play defense. He was like, you guys are dumb. If we just play defense this entire time, eventually there's going to be a breakthrough from the Burning Legion. They're going to break our walls down, and they're going to get to us. So either you guys quit being bitches and go on the offense, or we're going to die. And everyone else probably thought he was crazy, and he goes, fine, then I'll do it myself. And he created his own army, and he went on the offensive, and he took literally the Fel and used it against itself. He eventually brought Azeroth to frickin' God, why am I fucking... the planet. I can't remember its name right now for some reason. But he took the fight to them, and we won. His plan kind of worked.
War against the Legion.
Argus, yeah. I don't know why I couldn't remember the word Argus, but yes.
Followed the strategy that Illidan had kind of advocated for all along. But Illidan's methods...
He brought Argus to us, yes, technically.
made him impossible to trust. He would deceive his allies, he sacrificed innocent lives,
in the gutter today.
He enslaved or oppressed those beneath him, and he treated anybody who questioned him as either weak or expendable. Over in Outland, he became an isolated tyrant, ruling through fear, while claiming that everything that he did served a greater purpose. And that's why we had to fight him over at Black Temple. At the time, we could not see the full extent of his plans. We could only see the suffering, instability, and destruction that he was causing. Illidan, he was right that defeating the Legion required sacrifice, but he believed that he alone had the right to decide who would be sacrificed. So, yeah, he understood the enemy better than almost anybody, but his failure was believing that because he was necessary, it also made him unquestionably righteous. Number 9, Sargeras.
Sargeras?
Sargeras was the Titan who discovered that the Void Lord...
All right, well, all this lore right now you guys should listen to, because this is all about to become very relevant. But the Sargeras lore is important because he was right about the void, right? I mean, it's a bad thing. It's spreading around. Got to take it out. His means against not so good. Chopping planets in half, obliterating billions of lives on a single swipe. Maybe not the best way to do it.
Lords were attempting to corrupt sleeping
Pre-watch,
souls,
because I didn't know who Sargeras was. You're right.
Titans into beings of
Sargeras is not a good guy. I agree, Hatsu. I think of this list so far, Sargeras is the most questionable. Like, he's not really a good guy.
Imaginable darkness.
Even if he helps us in the end, he's doing it for sure just out of his own selfish hatred for his siblings.
If even one succeeded, it could potentially doom the entire cosmos. And this is why Sargeras, in all that he did, he kind of had a point. From Sargeras' point of view, the other Titans were naive. They believed corrupted worlds, they could be cleansed or saved, while he believed that the risk was too damn great. To him, even a lifeless universe was preferable to one completely consumed by the void. His burning crusade was therefore not simple destruction for destruction's sake. It was an attempt to deny the Void Lords anything that they could corrupt.
Right.
His fear
was
not
choke him
unfounded. The Void Lords, they were real. Old gods, they had infected countless worlds, and even Azeroth was dangerously vulnerable. Sargeras, he recognized that the Titans' orderly plans, they were not going to be enough to guarantee victory against an enemy capable of corrupting reality from within, but his solution was infinitely worse than the danger that he feared. Sargeras, he would destroy entire civilizations that hadn't even yet been corrupted. He enslaved trillions or more to his will. He shattered worlds and condemned innocent lives based only on what they might someday become. He just stopped trying to
what if Sargeras helps us beat the Titans? Does your opinion of him change? No, I don't think so. I think he's still doing it. If he does help us, like I said, he's fought his siblings before. He's killed his siblings before. They just, reanimate or regenerate via arcane and come back eventually. But I think the only reason why he would help us is because his interests are aligned. It's out of his own selfishness and greed. It makes sense for him to join our side. I don't think it's out of the goodness of his heart.
Protect creation, and instead he appointed himself as its executioner. Sargeras, he may have been right that the Void represented a great threat, but he believed only he had the wisdom to decide whether every living being deserved to exist. By attempting to destroy Azeroth to save the universe, he became the very cosmic tyrant he claimed to oppose. He saw the possibility of a universe consumed by darkness, and he chose to burn it first. And that is kind of terrifying. And now, everybody, we have the final person on this list. I just wanted to say again, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe. And this is someone that I think many of you were waiting to see if I would put him on the list. So here we go. Number 10, Arthas Menethil.
The greatest story in the history of World of Warcraft, the Fallen Prince.
The entire city must be purged.
This number 10, or sorta number one spot, of course, I'm going to give to Arthas Menethil, specifically because of Stratholme. This is the moment, the uncomfortable part of his story that nobody can cleanly talk about. Stratholme, it was infected. The plague was spreading, time was running out, and really, there wasn't exactly a good answer to this problem. There might not have even been a decent answer. Arthas, he looked at Stratholme.
All it was going to take was one ghoul getting out of that city, and it could lead to the, destruction of the entire world. And he saw that as a major problem. Obviously, it was a major problem. It's just his solution to it. It was tough. It's tough to justify slaughtering people before they even convert. Was there a way to create some sort of arcane bubble around the city and keep it isolated? Maybe. But he just wasn't willing to take the time really to think about it. He just saw the desperation of the situation and chose, to use his hammer.
and he believed hesitation would doom more people. And the horrible thing is that,
Big Sam.
you know, he's kind of right in saying that. Not morally pure. He's not being heroic. He's not justified in everything that followed. I mean, one tragedy doesn't justify another tragedy, you know, in morality and stuff. But he was right that the city was already lost in a way that his friends could not bear to accept. And that's why this moment is so powerful in Warcraft storytelling, because it's not so simple. If Arthas had been obviously wrong from the start, this story would have been a lot easier. Like, oh, he's evil, and of course he's going to purge Stratholme. But that was not the case. He was a noble paladin trying to do what he believed was right. And Warcraft, it put him in a situation where every choice felt monstrous. And then it showed what happens when one terrible decision becomes the foundation for all of his decisions after that, which ultimately took him to Frostmourne and the Frozen Throne. So Stratholme, it didn't turn Arthas into the Lich King, but it did reveal something in him. He was prideful. He was decisive, to a fault perhaps, and he did have the belief that only he could maybe see the truth, only he could see what was necessary and what needed to be done, that he alone had the right to decide who would live and who would die. Frostmourne didn't.
And it showed Mal'Ganis, that moment, you know, Mal'Ganis shows up at the end of the culling. It showed him that, yes, this prince has some deep-rooted darkness inside of him, and it could be exploited. And then he whispered to, you know, you want to fight me, bitch? Come to Northrend. Knowing that he was eventually going to find the Helm of Domination and Frostmourne and was going to become the Lich King and everything else. That moment, he was able to, it was kind of, it's kind of like I said, again, in more Star Wars-esque stories being told here. It's kind of like the fall of Anakin. You know, the darkness being seen in him, slowly being kind of pulled out, and in the end, he joined the Sith. And it was kind of the same thing. The eventual fall was because they saw the potential for it within him.
Create that wickedness out of nothing. It found it in him. And it makes you wonder what could have happened if Arthas had actually found support from his friends.
Yeah, Jaina and Uther were bitches here. Big time bitches. I mean, Jaina, you know, she's not necessarily like she's not a avid light user. She doesn't use the light in any way. She was young, just like Arthas. You know, they were fuck buddies, and she was just getting her cheeks clapped, and she felt like this was the wrong thing to do. So she stopped getting her cheeks clapped and walked away. But Uther, as a practicer of the light and a supposed, you know, teacher to Arthas, somebody who was supposed to be guiding him along the way, his moment disappoints me more than Jaina's, because he should have stood strong with Arthas there and tried to convince him more, tried harder to stop him from doing what he was doing. Instead, he got in like this bombastic back and forth, I'm stronger, no, you're the bitch, no, you're the bitch, and he walks away and just lets him do what he had to do. That's the unfortunate part.
What if Uther and Jaina hadn't run off? What if Uther, being a fellow paladin, what if he took some time to really understand Arthas's position and did his best to counsel him? Arthas
dismissed him, but he shouldn't have been dismissed so easily. Yes, he like stripped him of his title as the prince and everything. He could have still, you know, it's not his fault that it happened. You just would have liked to see a bit more effort in that moment, you know, especially with the kind of the weight of what Arthas was talking about doing.
Future king that he was, maybe things would have played out differently for the young prince. I mean, Uther was his mentor, and Uther just kind of left. Arthas remains one of World of Warcraft's best villains because really he wasn't necessarily wrong about everything in what he did to save Lordaeron, but he lost his soul in the process. But for one terrible moment though at Stratholme, maybe he was almost right. And then ultimately he became a terrible monster. Anyway, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was a ton of fun to make on my end. If you want to learn more about Orcish history, I have a video linked on your screen right now. And if you want to watch my video where I speculated on what if Arthas had never turned evil,
thumbnail,
that is on your screen right now as well. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.
Great video overall from Nixium. Nice one. Yeah, I think a lot of this he was right about. There's a couple of villains I kind of disagreed about. I mean, for one, we had basically Sargeras, not really a good guy. Even Lei Shen, he's kind of fucked up for some of the shit he did. He was very much a tyrant, a dominant person. And some of these I agree with, though. There's a lot of intricacies to some of these villains. One I'm surprised he didn't talk about was the Jailer. He mentioned Sylvanas and her leading with it, but the Jailer, some of the shit he was saying, he seemed to notice the Titan issues and stuff like that a long time ago. And he was right about the Titans. Just his means of breaking the system and everything, maybe not the best. Interesting. Yeah, nice video overall from Nixium. He always does good videos. I agree, guys.